14. The New Sovereign or God. A special Chalcedon Alert number 3. Chalcedon Report number 217, August 1983. The most common term for God in the Old Testament is Lord. Adonai in the Hebrew, and for Jesus Christ in the New Testament, is again Lord, Kyrios in the Greek. It means absolute owner, God or sovereign. In the ancient world, the state or the ruler claimed lordship or sovereignty. The battle between Rome and the early church was over this issue. Rome was ready to recognize any religion as licit or legal and give it a license to operate if it would declare, Caesar is Lord. The answer of faithful Christians was the profession of faith in terms of Philippians chapter 2, verses 9 to 11, that Jesus Christ is Lord. This was the beginning of a long battle between church and state which still marks European history. The European settlement was, in parts, an uneasy compromise. The church gained many of its claimed exemptions, but the rulers of the state asserted a sovereignty under God by grace. Thus, an English halfpenny of 1966 carried this inscription: Elizabeth II, Dei Gratia Regina. Elizabeth II, by the grace of God. The coronation service stressed the covenantal nature of her throne. However, even in the days of George VI, some of the coins in Britain and the Dominion limited Dei Gratia to DG, while retaining Rex, as in a 1944 halfpenny. Newer coins now omit even DG. God and His grace have been dropped as meaningless baggage, even in a country heavily wedded to tradition and forms. Thus, in the new penny in 1971, only DG remained. In the large Australian 20-cent piece of 1981, not even this truncated reference to God's grace and overlordship remains. The United States, ostensibly, was to take another course. The Constitution deliberately omitted all reference to sovereignty, and the prevalent belief was, rightly, that it belongs only to God. On the Jubilee of the Constitution, April 30th, 1839, John Quincy Adams declared that the War of Independence had been a revolt against the omnipotence of Parliament to the omnipotence of the God of battles. Of sovereignty, Adams, a Unitarian and a liberal of his day, said, "The grossly immoral and dishonest doctrine of despotic state sovereignty, the exclusive judge of its own obligations, and responsible to no power on earth or in heaven for the violation of them, is not there. The Declaration says, it is not in me. The Constitution says, it is not in me." Very early, however, John Marshall introduced the doctrine of sovereignty into U.S. Supreme Court decisions. Especially in the 20th century and since 1936, the doctrine has grown rapidly to its logical conclusion. In the Bob Jones University case, this was very clear. We may or may not agree with the interracial dating policy of Bob Jones University. This was a minor and peripheral issue in the court's decision. The court chose to assert unlimited federal sovereignty. Public policy, not freedom, shall prevail. If public policy favours abortion and homosexuality, then these cannot be opposed. Suits are already being prepared to destroy churches opposed to abortion, homosexuality, and homosexuals and women as pastors and priests. Public policy is simply another word for totalitarianism. It means that the will of the state is the law, and there is no appeal against the state, the new God walking on earth. In a subsequent decision, abortion was held to be a human right which no law can infringe. As Professor of Law Charles E. Rice in Beyond Abortion, The Theory and Practice of the Secular State, Chicago, Illinois, Franciscan Herald Press, 1979, has pointed out, the courts now define a person legally, that is, whether or not one is biologically and medically a living human being, is replaced by whether or not the courts define us as a legal person. The door has been opened not only for abortion, but for the elimination of the sick, the senile, and all hated groups as legal non-persons. Thus, in these two areas, we have seen the First Amendment wiped out by a new doctrine, the mandatory conformity to public policy, implicitly for taxed as well as tax-exempt groups, and the right of the state to kill all whom it considers to be non-persons.